So if you want to get better at drawing heads, you want to get better at drawing people, faces, heads, all of that fun stuff, there's three main fundamentals. And what are these three fundamentals? The three fundamentals for heads are loomis slash simple, the loomis head, which is this one here. And then you have to learn the skull, which is more anatomy. And then you have to learn Asaro, which is the planes of the head, the Riley method, all of that fun stuff. So they all kind of bleed into each other, and these all inform each other. So if you want to get, like, I got these laminated, these are old figure head drawings. I got a laminator, so I'm messing with that. If you want to be able to get to and build out some stuff like this, you want to have a good, strong buildup, which looks like this. And how do you get to this buildup? By practicing Lumis head, and by knowing the skull, and by also understanding the planes of the head. Okay, so that seems like a lot. Let's go through it one by one. I have my window open and there's cars driving outside, but you know, we natural up in here. So let's first go with the Lumis head. For the pen, I just have this like 50 cents Bic. Don't use anything fancy. If you have pencils, HB, like normal yellow pencils are good, but then I like darker, like 6B, 4B pencils, 10B pencils. They're nice and like, they're soft. Paper is just whatever paper. Don't worry about materials. Materials don't matter. It's the wizard, not the wand. First step would be Lumis head. What is the Lumis head? I think that if you spend some time learning to draw, you might have seen or heard of Andrew Lumis, the guy who kind of made the drawing the head way, where it's you have your ball, your sphere, and then you drop the draw line down. You cut the sphere, you cut the part of the sphere off, and then you drop the draw line down like this. This is basically the Lumis head. And then you can have a line for the nose and then a line for the mouth, like that. To make it more clear, let's do a front view. You draw your sphere, you have your line going down, you have your brow line. This is where your eyebrows go, not where your eyes go. And then you just drop down the jaw. Right here, the bottom of the sphere would be around the bottom of the nose, mouth, eyes like this. Now you might move the proportions around depending on the face, but this is the general idea. Other proportional things to know beforehand is eyes are in the center of the face. So it's honestly just a figuring out what way works best for you. So if I have a face like this already, I know that if I'm going to put the eyes maybe halfway, then here, this distance is around halfway between this distance. But I'm telling you now, as you get better and better, none of this stuff matters. You don't really care. It's just in the back of your mind, or it's muscle memory. Like my hand thinks about it, not me. And you basically just get the gauge of it going. So that's the Andrew Lumis head. Why do you want to learn this? You want to learn this very generic, very simple way, so that you're able to very easily maneuver and put the head in whatever perspective you want it to be. And also practice drawing the neck. The neck is also a good spot. If you know how to put a head or draw this space or draw this Lumis head in perspective, then you should be able to put the head and put the body in whatever pose you wish. Looking down, looking up, side view. Everything kind of builds off from this. And you might have seen other people's like different versions of the head, and especially in anime and like chomang. But a lot of this is all based off of the simple Lumis head. Everything can be built off of this. So that's why you want to get really good at this. And it's also like the most easiest thing to just scribble when you're absentmindedly. If you don't know what to draw and you're like, oh, I'm stuck, I don't want to draw, but you want to hit a quota of drawing every day, and then just do a page of these in different angles. And then you're done. 3/4 angle is always good. Try to get good at memorizing where the stuff goes. And then you can always just be messy with it. Here, I brought the cheek out a little bit too wide, so I just cut it down. Use a pen. That way you don't get into the habit of erasing, and then you just do a bunch of them like that. And draw light. I like ballpoint pens like these rather than gel pens like this one's the Japanese pilot like jet ink or whatever. I think it won an award or something. This is cheap too. You just buy a pack of them for like $10 USD. But these ones, it's like you don't really get. It's very inky. You don't really get a soft line that you can build up. So that's why I like using these even cheaper ones that you can just find on the ground somewhere, because you can go from like soft to thick, and then you can sketch with it, and then if you like the line, you can darken it. But anyway, so that's Lumis head. Get good at Lumis head. Lumis head is simple. The only shapes you need to know is sphere, how to draw the sphere, and then you can just cut down and bring the jaw down, or cut the sphere off. Just practice this. This is like super beginner. Get good at drawing spheres and then cutting off an edge of the sphere. Get good at drawing spheres and then drawing rubber bands surrounding the sphere. Get good at drawing spheres, cutting the edge, putting a rubber band, and then putting a center line, and then dropping the jaw down here. Be careful not to drop the jaw down too far. If you cut it off, this should just be a little bit. It shouldn't be all the way dropped down. And you'll see that more once we start moving on to the second thing to learn. So you have your Lumis heads down. You've graduated from level 1. You probably spent a week on this, and then now you're solid. You spent a week doing these Lumis heads, trying to get the perspective right. Now you want to start graduating to skulls. You want to start drawing skulls. You don't have to be extra like me, but I have a anatomically correct human skull. This is pretty good. I got this really early in my drawing journey. It was on Amazon. I don't know how much it was years ago, but essentially I would just sit this on my desk, turn it in an angle, and just draw it. You can just go the normal way, like a normal person, and just draw with Google. Look up Pinterest and look up human skulls, and just be really edgy and practice drawing a bunch of these in all of these different angles. Now, why? Why do you want to learn to draw skulls? It's anatomy. We all know that in real life, people have different features, and no one really looks the same. So, but what does look the same, or what does look really close, is the human skull. And so the human skull doesn't change too much from person to person. And so it's really good to know and learn the skull and the anatomy so that you know what areas are subcutaneous, which means that where the bone is directly under the skin and there's no fat, what areas have fat and can be pudged out, what areas are the landmarks, what areas do not really change. So we'll start it the same way too. All of these things, they build onto each other. So starting it the same way, we have our sphere. We can cut off the side. We can draw out the brow line, center, down, center line going down, finding the angle. You can start off with the Lumis head, like this. I mean, you can even put down the neck if you want to. So now that we have this, we'll bring in the eye sockets. Eye sockets, they're big, so we can put them out like this. And the eye socket kind of goes right up against the edge of the forehead, where the forehead turns to the side of the head. And then if you see over here, you can see from the side angle that there's this ridge, this brown line that goes like this, and then it bumps in for the eye socket, and it sticks out here for the zygomatic bone or the cheekbone. Right? If I were to match the angle that I have, it would be like that, like that. So when I'm drawing this skull, I need to make sure that I hit that angle. So I have the forehead, I have the brown line here. Let's jut that out. Let's bring the eye socket in, and then let's jut this out for the zygomatic bone. And you also know that the zygomatic bone is kind of like a band that stretches across like this. This is the main piece, and then it comes down to the maxilla, and then which is sort of the front to the top of the teeth. And then here is the mandible. But we won't focus on the mandible yet. So we have this. You can even draw some light lines here. Right? Don't be so precious with your lines. I would go light and then go darker as you kind of find more. I would even ghost stuff in to see if you like it. I'll put in just a little bit of stuff here. And then this other part that's important is that you have this arch on the top, which kind of follows the arch of the corner plane of the head. So like this arch is dictating where the front of the head is, where the side of the head is. So it's that corner. You want to emphasize that corner so that your drawings have structure. And then the zygomatic bone kind of just drops back down here to where the ear is. Now the skull is also really good for finding, like, for creating the perspective and for creating depths and to see where the thing is where things are overlapping. Nose bridge overlaps the eye socket. So if the head is from this angle, you'll start to see the nose bridge here overlap the eye socket like this. And it's higher up. The nose would normally be around here, but because of cartilage, the actual bone is way up. And then you have over here, this is the glabella. You don't have to really know all these terms. I say, like, when I started doing this, all you need to do is just copy it. Like, I didn't know what any of this stuff was. I just copied the lines. I just copied what I saw. And then I watched some videos of people drawing skulls, and they talked about it a little bit, and I slowly started to pick up the terminology. And then after I felt more comfortable, I actually grabbed an anatomy book and I actually studied all the names, and I drew a million skulls while just, marking down, like, oh, this right here, this is glabella. This here, this is zygomatic. This here, maxilla. Like, I would just draw lines like that. And then, after like 100 drawings or whatever, you slowly just ingrain it into your memory. It's all about mileage. This is what people mean when we say, like, you need to spend more time drawing. The mouth cylinder, there's a tooth cylinder, right? The human skull, this part protrudes, your mouth sticks out. So you want to have that in drawing. And this is actually, you don't realize it until you actually learn it, but like so much of the skull can be seen on like a normal person's head, on a normal person's, like a portrait drawing or anything, even stylized, even anime, things like that. So much of the skull can be seen if you know what you're looking at. If you see this, if you have this memorized and you just look at someone's face, anyone's face, no matter the size, the amount of fat, the amount of leanness, you'll start to see all of the anatomy, and then it just becomes super easy to build it out. This is the mandible, so this is the bone, the lower jaw that drops down like this. And yeah, so there you go. You don't have to, like, sometimes you can do like the teeth or whatever, but who cares? I think the main part is just this front area right here is this. And then if we want to do different angles, right? Like if we want to do one from this side, you can be rough with it, be loose like this, more at an angle, or you can see how I'm just kind of being a more loosey-goosey with it. Boom. Now this is at a much stronger angle, so I'm just going to cut this down a lot like this. Just trying to find the placement of everything. Everything is temporary right now until I start to like what I'm seeing. I might even move this further up like this, and then trying to find where the zygomatic is. I'm not really at a good angle to see this, so I'm kind of just drawing it from memory. I'm not really looking at this reference, but you should. And then I'm kind of putting out a little bit more of like rhythm lines that I memorized. But let's put in the eye socket, second eye socket right here. Let's put in the nose, and then you can just slowly discover your simplified shape. So this is how I simplify it. It's not exactly what I'm seeing here because I'm not really looking at here. If I were to like draw this like this, it would actually be kind of like a this shape, right? More sadder. But I have it like this because I draw anime. I really like this rhythm line down here. This is where the chin is starting to come out, and if you really do see it, this is like one of the rhythm lines that you really see when you're drawing people, and it's also really good to capture. I personally like the look of it. I'm getting my anatomy mixed up, right? So I would actually go like this. The maxilla would probably be way more back here. I should be looking at this, but I'm not because I have a microphone right here that's blocking my view of it, so I just see this microphone. But you get the idea. Boom. But yeah, something like that. So getting good at this and internalizing the skull will also help you out with proportions. Lumis head, do a bunch of these, graduate to skulls, learn the skull. Let's see. And then the last step is the Asaro head. What is the Asaro head? Well, I am very extra. So just like how I have a skull, I also have a model of the Asaro head. This thing cost a good amount of money. You do not need to buy this. There is a free Asaro head on Sketchfab. If you just Google it, Asaro head, you will find it on Sketchfab, a 3D model that you can just rotate on your computer. I would do that version, rotate it like a few different angles, like a low angle, a high angle, and then just copy that. No need to think. So, why Asaro head? What's so fancy about this thing? Well, it essentially what's happening, what these 3 steps are, is building detail. Lumis head, super simplified, can fit 100% of people. Skulls can also be fitting, and it's also learning the underlying structure, right? The background, the foundation of the head. So these two parts are very, very important. The last part, the loomis head, is building out the more tertiary, more specific, detailed forms of the head. So like this. Now this is very, very exaggerated, but it's exaggerating all of the features, all of the planes of the head. Loomis head is the planes of the head. You can also Google planes of the head. What the planes of the head is basically like a low poly 3-dimensional rendering of a head that shows all of the specific sides or the planes of the head. There's a light right here. It's shining down. The planes that are facing the light will be lighter, and then the planes that are moving away will have less light and will be darker. Lumis head, or not the Lumis, Asaro head captures the planes so that you know how the features look, how to design the features, and then it also teaches you how to light the head. How do the shadows work? Now, I'm not going to go over lighting. That's like a whole other thing. Okay, let's look at these. This was my warm-up because I haven't drawn in a bit, so I'm a little rusty. We have Lumis head, and then it slowly starts to bring in a little bit of the skull anatomy, like you see my head's going in here. And then I start putting in more Asaro head / Riley rhythms. So let's bring those in. I have a video already talking about the rhythms of the head that I like, the head guidelines that I like. But let's go over them real quick right now. I'm just gonna do generic angle. If you know, the more you know about me is I hate front angle. I hate the straight on view because it's boring, but also I hate having to draw like symmetrically. I'm not good at drawing symmetrically, so I just don't. If I'm were to have to draw like a front angle, I do it digitally and use the symmetry tool, just because work smart, not hard. But I'll probably do a front angle too. Okay, so I roughed in a Lumis head. Super easy, right? Don't even have to think about it. Put in the neck. Practice drawing necks and draw necks longer. If you're newer to drawing, practice drawing your necks longer than normal, and you can always shrink them. People always like to draw them way too short. Anyway, Lumis head already is the foundation of the Asaro head because it captures the front plane. This plane right here faces this way, and then this plane faces this way. I drew a line from here, this plane, going down to the chin, because this is also where it turns. This side faces this way, this side faces this way. 3/4 view. If we have a box, this is why it's good to draw boxes. It's like this, right? All of this is all the side of the head. Lumis. Now let's start adding in a little bit of skull. I'm bringing in all of the information right here. I'm bringing all of this in, step by step. We have Lumis head, bringing in skull. Skull, I like putting in placement for the eyes, just so that I can see, is this in a good spot? Should I move it lower? Should I move it higher? This is more of a, realistic features, so I'm gonna be putting it, in a higher-ish spot, less forehead. And then let's bring in placement of the nose, placement of the mouth. I'm keeping in track of my anatomy, keeping this in mind so that I know that the head goes forward and then it goes in and then out and then down, out, right for the mouth sphere, the tooth cylinder. And I'm also keeping in track this angle here for the eye socket down to the cheekbone. Now let's look at the Asaro head. So now to start adding in more features for the Asaro head. This one has a detailed side and a not detailed side. You can choose whatever. I'm just going to be doing like a mix of these. You'll start to see brow ridge, dips down for the eye socket, comes out for the zygomatic cheekbone, and then there's a bump right here for the tooth cylinder. Tooth cylinder protrudes, and then room for the chin. Nose as well. If you see it from a 3/4 angle, this nose bridge covers a part of the eye. These are all things to keep in mind. I'll leave the head here, but I won't draw from it. I'm just going to draw from imagination because I'm cool like that. So I first like to capture the protrusion of the brow ridge. It goes down, it goes out, it goes back in. There's also the glabella, which is this diamond shape that goes in like that. And this is basically the beginning of the nose protrusion, where the nose comes out of. Eye socket around here. slowly making little shifts as I add more detail. I'm like, okay, this is a little low, so I'm gonna move it up a little bit. Here, let's bring out the nose. It also brings down, so now it's time to start learning. Once you get to the Asaro head phase, and you're like, okay, I think, I have the skull ready, I have all of that. Once you're at the Asaro head phase, this is when it's the same phase as when you're learning how to draw different features, how to draw noses, the planes of the nose, how to draw eyes, right? You see, like, you have an eyeball, this, and then you have the top lid, and it drops down. You have the bottom lid, like this, right? All of that fun stuff. I'm gonna capture a little bit more of this zygomatic bone, the same thing we drew when we did the skull. And here you'll see the stylized. There's just muscle over it. So, bam, bam. Right, this is where the skull is. The skull will be here. The ear would be around here. This is where that zygomatic bone would be reaching back like this. Rhythm line. There's also a good rhythm right here if you draw a sphere, because this is flat, angle. I'll put this in shadow for now. I'll also put the bottom plane in shadow just so it stands out and we see it clearly. Fulcrum protrudes back out. You see this, and then, learn your features. I'm just doing something whatever. I like making, especially when you're just like studying the head. These lips are off, but I'm drawing from a weird angle. Like my head's like way back. So that's just an excuse. It's when you're like, doing Asaro head studies or whatever, it's good to just like exaggerate and push the features out more too, just so that you see where everything goes. Now here is where that chin thing is. Where is it? This line here. I like bringing that out. I forgot what muscle it's called, but it's just some muscle. Bringing out the chin, room for the chin too. Here, this is also going to be in shadow as well, like that. Right, and then you can even, bring in a little bit of that masseter muscle. Like there's a big muscle like right here, your cheek muscle. That's kind of like what that is. Learn your anatomy. Always learn anatomy. And then, this masseter bone can kind of be seen outside, like subcutaneously. That's your jawline. Your people are mewing these days. The nephews are mewing, and then it's just sort of adding in rhythm lines and gestures. And then you can kind of start to, and then, when you're doing like a true study, you can start to add in the actual like planes, like this or whatever. I'm not doing that. That's too much work for this. And I've already, I paid my dues. I've drawn a million of those, so I'm not going to do it anymore. Front view, same idea. But I think that I'm going to do something a little bit different because I want to talk about just general good rhythm lines to know. The Riley rhythms. You have a sphere for the top of the forehead. This is the brow ridge. You can have the bottom of the eyes or something here, right? I like having, you have the eye sockets. You have your glabella right here. You have this, your eye sockets. You have your nose, can go like right here, mouth. You have your cheek line, and then you have bottom, here's the ball for the chin, and then you have the ball for the mouth here. There's like two spheres. There's also one here. There's a rhythm line for under the eyes. Now this is more high concept, and I'm kind of going fast because this isn't a Riley method, Riley rhythms video. But if you want to know more Riley rhythms, then sure, I can like do one. But the main idea is, from all of this is why I like 3/4. 3/4 just shows a lot more. The rhythm that I really like, that I always talk about, is side of the head. Goes down for the cheek, and then down for the lower mouth. Like this. It goes cheek, down for the lower mouth. Like that. That's the big rhythm. And then these like mouth rhythms you don't really need. But this top forehead rhythm is good to know because it also gives you this like connection for the eyes. These rhythms for the eyes. All of that. But yeah, that's a little off topic, but I will include it just so that there's like a little bit of extra stuff to look at. Now let's look at more. Now how does this apply? This is the final little tidbit. How can we apply this to more like stylized stuff? Because like we like anime up in this here. We like anime in this house. When you're doing anime, it's just simplifying it. If you have something like, let's see. Okay. This is very stylized, but it's stylized in the direction of a lot of structure. If you're having more anime style, or even chibi, I'll use a chibi as an example. A lot of things are just simplified, but it's all the same idea, right? Instead of having a more, a human proportion of the faces, like further down, like a lower jaw, you can just make it fatter, cuter, bigger eyeballs, smaller nose, mouth, thin neck. But then you're still following the same ideas as all of this. You're still keeping in mind the skeleton, right? I don't know if you've seen videos of like a chibi skull. Here, let's do it this way. If you have a chibi skull, it's very much like a big baby, just very small jaw, you know, and very big eyes. The eyes are basically the eye sockets, you know. So for a more anime look like these ones, it's just simplifying. You can kind of see how it just kind of ties all back in, right? You have the planes, you have which direction everything is facing. You want to know that, and then you can start putting in the features and slowly start to stylize them and how you like to do it. So let's just do a quick head anime style. Boom. So you can kind of see how I'm like incorporating the stuff that I know. Why did I do this? Because eye socket, right, it goes in for the eye socket, and then a cheek zygomatic bone. This is a bit of a lower angle. Neck, nose protrudes, slides down, mouth. Since the eye is here and the second eye is around here, you just want to keep in mind the planes of the head and know that things are in 3D, things are wrapping. Even though anime is very 2D, things overlap like this. And then you also have the brow ridge that protrudes. And you have this second eyebrow. Second eye can always be a little bit tricky, but as long as you're, keeping track of your fundamentals, shouldn't be too difficult. Bam, bam. The other line is where the hairline is, so I like keeping something like this before I start to slide in. I might move this a little bit higher up and then bring down, or like, shorten the jaw. Right here, the jaw is a little bit too big. I would probably want to squeeze these up more, but it's not really about that. Ear, good distance. Bring in I need a bit more head space. Just doing some simple proportional measurements. I don't like how high up this is, but it's too late now. I can't really mess with it. So whatever, you gotta just deal with it. And just know that this isn't gonna be, the last drawing I'm gonna draw. So here, I don't like it. I don't like this part down here. Let's go again. Now I can do the same thing again, try to redo it, but I'll do a different pose. Head, ear. This time I'll keep it in mind and try to bring the jaw, not let the jaw go too wide. Right, so this is not good. This part is fine. Here, so I just want to keep track. Keep the jaw low. Here's the neck. Here's the eye. I'm going to be keeping the eyes a bit lower. Nose. Okay. Jaw feels still a little bit big, but that's fine. Eyebrow. So here it's not so far of an angle, so I can, keep things relatively tame. Bam. There we go. So that's the idea. And all of these concepts, they all apply. These all apply in this. So that's the gist. The 3 steps, the 3 main things to know when drawing heads, how to improve your heads, how to practice your heads, is to learn the Lumis head shape, the simple heads that we see here. And then you can start learning the skull, start studying the different skulls and a little bit of the anatomy. You don't have to know everything, but just, how does the skull work? What are the parts of the skull? And then lastly, you can start to study and bring in the Asaro head, the different planes of the head, the planes of the face, and as the features.